Warren Buffett was born on August 30th, 1930 to proud parents Howard Buffett and Leila Stahl Buffett during the Great Depression. Times were hard in the Great Depression. Food was scarce, and Howard Buffett was worried the family might starve. But Grandpa Ernest Buffett, who ran a grocery stall, practiced tough love. "Don't worry about food, Howard," Grandpa Ernest told him. "I'll just let your bill run." And how does Warren Buffett, born in such tough environment, go on to become one of the world's richest and most admired businessmen? Here is his story.
Well, I thought he was a prodigy, and I got a lot of criticism. My wife said, "Why are you paying such enormous respect to that young man with a crew cut who won't eat vegetables?" And I said, "That's no ordinary young man."
He's a unique leader. I can't think of anyone close. Sure, there have been great CEOs who understood their particular company and built something phenomenal. But in terms of breadth and thoughts about business itself and how it helps society, how it should be done, Warren is singular in my view. No one will be as good as Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett was born on August 30th, 1930, to proud parents Howard Buffett and Leila Stahl Buffett. It was in this middle-class Midwestern ambiance that he grew up with his parents and two sisters. Since young, Warren Buffett has always been good at mathematics, affinity with numbers, and a precocious memory. And he put these talents to good use, making money. At the age of 5, he set up a gum stall at the sidewalk, selling chiclets, and from there, he progressed to selling lemonade and lost golf balls from players who can't play, like Tiger Woods. For side income, he did some caddying at Omaha Country Club. At age 6, Warren started selling Coca-Cola and other soda pops. One day, at age 7, he was hospitalized with a fever and had his appendix removed. There, young Warren told the nurse, "I don't have much money now, but someday I will, and I'll have my picture in the paper." A few years later, he famously told a neighbor, "I'll be a millionaire by 30. And young Warren added, "It's not that I want money, it's the fun of making money and watching it grow." At the ripe old age of 11, Warren Buffett started buying stocks. The buying never stopped.
You went back to that day in 1942 because it was the day you purchased your first stock, which point out you were 11 years old then.
Right.
So
yeah, and the day I bought, I mean, the headlines.
The other side.
Yeah, the headlines were terrible every day.
Young Warren, at age 11, with his prowess in mathematics, also started selling race picks with his friend Russell at Agsarben Racetrack, but was closed down for want of a license. And in the neighborhood, young Warren was known as a bookworm with photographic memory. Young Warren started delivering newspapers at the age of 13, and being a law-abiding citizen, filed his first tax return at 14 when the family moved to Washington, D.C., upon his father becoming a congressman.
So when you were growing up in Washington, you were already a business person. So you were making money, and as I understand it, you filed your first tax return when you were 14 years old?
Yeah, it was for the year when I was 13, and 13. I filed it when I was 14. Yeah.
Okay. And did you think the tax rates were too high then, or not?
It hurt more in those days. I did deduct my bicycle and my watch as business expenses.
You learn a lot about human nature when you deliver papers, says Buffett. For one thing, you learn you have to pay for them each month, whether the customers pay you or not. You have to collect money. I also learned, he says, that if you did a good job, you were going to move up. The very fact that I did a good job in Spring Valley got me more routes later on. And these were during a tumultuous period of World War II, Pearl Harbor, and the dropping of the atomic bombs. Soon enough, young Warren graduates from Wilson High with this caption in his yearbook: "Likes math, a future stockbroker." From his teens to adulthood, Warren was awkward with girls.
When I got out of business school at Columbia, I developed pretty decent skills in terms of business, but I hadn't really come to terms with the world exactly.
What were you like around girls back then?
Bad. I was sort of out of the swing of things there for a while. I went to my 60th reunion. There's a girl there. I took her out one time to Uptown Theater in Washington, and I asked her whether she remembered what movie we saw, and she said, no, I don't remember that. And then she said, but I do remember one thing. And like an idiot, I said, what was that? And she said, well, you picked me up in a hearse. And it was true that I owned a half interest in a hearse while I was in high school, which was not the smoothest thing, or coolest, as I would say now, the thing that you could do on a date.
Susan Thompson, the daughter of a psychology professor and distinguished Omaha minister, was a lively, perceptive, wonderful young lady from Omaha and roommate of Roberta, Warren's younger sister at Northwestern University.
I wanted to go to Northwestern, and in those days it was actually easy to go where you wanted to go. So anyway, and it turned out that I found out that Susie, who went to Central High School, and I just knew in a very, very slight way, was going, so I thought it would be fun if we were roommates, and she thought so too. So we became roommates at Northwestern. And she was a very, very special person. And because we were roommates, we were seeing more of each other, and then Warren was around, you know, when we were home, and that's essentially how they really met, was because we were roommates. So that turned out to be a wonderful, lucky thing. And I remember I felt so lucky when she married him, because I thought, oh, good, I'll be close to her all my life. She understood that people's feelings were important, and she cared about other people, and she had a knack for really connecting with people at a level that didn't happen usually. And so people loved her and wanted to be around her. And she understood people, and I mean, my brother found that really magical. But most people did.
Susie did not come with good health when young, but had experienced unconditional love from her parents. This had contributed to her sensitivity and empathy for the situations and sufferings of others. From all accounts, Susie had contributed much to the emotional well-being of Warren Buffett, making him whole.
I was a mess when she met me, and matter of fact, in another part of that interview, she said, what was her first impression of me? And she said, what a jerk. But fortunately, she looked at me as a challenge, maybe sort of preparing her for Howie, I'm not sure. and she put me together. It changed my life.
When you say put you together, in what way for the good? How did you change?
I slowly grew up, and I wouldn't have otherwise. I wasn't feeling good about the world or myself, and she just stood there with a little watering can and just sprinkled, and finally the flower bloomed.
Many great businessmen are incapable of real love or even real emotion sometimes. They get so absorbed in business. Many people who don't know, I guess, may assume you're one of those characters, but from what the family have told me, what I've read in great biography about you, Snowball and others, you're not that man at all. You're capable of great emotion and great love.
There's nothing like love, you know.
Does it override anything else in your life?
Sure. I mean, it's wonderful to love. It's wonderful to be loved.
She was a very good singer, consummate problem solver, and philanthropist who was both top-down and button-up. Warren started courting Susie in the summer of 1951. Warren immediately fell in love with her upon seeing her. It took a while for Susie to love him back. To improve his chances, Warren Buffett went off into her home every night to play ukulele with Susie's father, Bill, who played the mandolin.
I've been working on the railroad all the livelong day. I've been working on the railroad just to pass the time away. Can't you hear the whistle blow and rise up so early in the morn? Can't you hear the captain shout and Dinah, blow your horn? Dinah, won't you blow? Dinah, won't you blow? Dinah, won't you blow your horn? Dinah, won't you blow? Dinah, won't you blow? Dinah, won't you blow your horn?
Warren and Susie married at Dundee Presbyterian Church in April 1952 and drove to California for their honeymoon with Moody's manuals and annual reports loaded at the back seat of the car. While observing a casino scene, Warren remarked to Susie, "I'm going to be rich."
We got married, we ended up in Las Vegas, but I walked into this casino aged, or a Flamingo. It was kind of a motel-like arrangement. And I was 21 and my bride was 19, and I looked around the room, and there were all of these people, and they were better dressed then. It was a more dignified group than perhaps currently, but they'd flown thousands of miles in some cases. They'd gone to great lengths to come out to do something that was mathematically unintelligent, and they knew it was unintelligent. And I mean, they couldn't do it fast enough in terms of rolling the dice, and trying to determine whether they were hot or whatever they may be. And I looked around at that group. Everybody there knew that they were doing something that was mathematically dumb, and they'd come thousands of miles to do it. And they were, and I said to my wife, I said, I'm going to get rich.
Susie later introduced Astrid Mix to Warren to make him soup. She passed away at the age of 72, leaving the bulk of her $3 billion estate comprising of Berkshire Hathaway shares to a foundation which bore her name. Warren Buffett was so grief-stricken that he didn't attend the funeral.
I just read and read and read. I probably read 5 to 6 hours a day. I don't read as fast now as when I was younger, but I read 5 daily newspapers. I read a fair number of magazines. I read 10Ks, I read annual reports, and I read a lot of other things too. So I've always enjoyed reading. I love reading biographies, for example.
And you process information very quickly.
Well, I have some filters in my mind. So if somebody calls me about an investment in a business or an investment in securities, I usually know in 2 or 3 minutes whether I have an interest. And I don't waste any time with the ones in which I don't have an interest in.
Mr. Buffett, thank you so much for being here today. Have you collected stamps?
I collected quite a bit when I was a kid, yeah.
What kind?
Oh, originally I forget which the first album that I had, but I had the Scott International, that big blue album eventually, so I collected worldwide. I didn't have much money.
Do you still have them?
I've still got quite a few, and I've still got a lot of first day covers around.
Oh, really?
But I think I actually have the big blue album.
I've been working on the railroad all the livelong day. I've been working on the railroad just to pass the time away.
This is Tiger Woods over here. I caddied for him some years ago down at Isleworth. On the 18th hole, I've been caddying for him, and if we get to the 18th hole, and he says, Warren, I hear you play this game. And I said, I don't play the same game, Tiger. He says, no, you play this game. And he says, anybody that plays golf, I have to play for money. And I said, Tiger, that doesn't sound like the fairest thing I've ever heard. He said, no, we're going to play for money. And I said, what kind of money? He said, serious money. And I said, what's that mean? He said, $5. I said, that is serious money. And but I said, okay, if that's what you want to do. It was a 460-yard par 4. And after we made the bet, he dropped down on his knees. And he actually hit the ball on his knees.
Oh, no.
He still won the hole. He
no.
He hit that ball about 260 on his knees.
No.
So I gave him $5, and I just handed him $5. And then I said, Tiger, you're forgetting something. And he said, what's that? I said, the caddy gets 10% of your winnings. So he gave me 50 cents back.
Bridge is the most interesting game in the world. It's true that I could do almost anything. I could have a big boat someplace or go off to faraway islands. And there's nothing I enjoy more than playing bridge. I play bridge about 12 hours a week, and I go home and I change into a sweatsuit and then sit down, and in 30 seconds I have a game.
So I called Oscar. I said, Oscar, will you take one, make him some soup, go over there and look after him, because he's not going to make it. And it took him a while to figure it out, but he figured it out. I said, I'm not leaving you, because I'll be wherever you want me when you want me.
It's been so much fun. We both have the theory that you should hang around good people and always behave better every year than you behaved the previous year. We both have this fundamental idea that the world works better if you make your relationships win-win. And we both early learned that the way to get a good partner was to be a good partner.
July 5th, 1991, I think we probably spent 10 or 11 hours talking.
Yeah, two things that I picked up after meeting you is bridge was one and golf was another. Yeah. I was never a good golfer, and it was an excuse to talk. It certainly wasn't about golfing. Whenever I see something, take these very low interest rates, even negative interest rates, I'm always thinking, boy, I'm looking forward to talking to Warren about that. One thing that's fun is you have a very optimistic view about things.
I lived across the street. He came across the street one day and he said, "Don, I love your kids." I said, "I know." And he said, I was thinking about college, getting kids through college isn't easy. I said, "Warren, I'm working on grade school right now. I'll get around to college a little later." He said, "I've started a little fund. People putting a little money into it, and if you gave me, say, $10,000, I think I could build that up into something." Well, Charlie, I didn't give it to him for two reasons. One, I didn't have it. I could have borrowed it from my father. But I went into Mickey and said, "Can you imagine giving $10,000 to a guy who doesn't get up and go to work in the morning?" That was one of my great decisions of my life.
If you had given him that $10,000.
Don't ask.
Yeah, probably over $400 million.
Now $400
yeah.
million.
Mm-hmm.
He's remarkably nice. He never cuts people down. He really doesn't. He may do that behind the scenes. He's terribly funny. When he does think about anything, he is extremely rational about it. And that's the thing I believe that sets him apart and Charlie Munger, his friend, is that they bring a rationality to any business subject.
But in the end, the spirit about compliance is as important or more so than words about compliance. After they first obey all rules, I then want employees to ask themselves whether they are willing to have any contemplated act appear the next day on the front page of their local paper, to be read by their spouses, children, and friends, with the reporting done by an informed and critical reporter. If they follow this test, they need not fear my other message to them. Lose money for the firm and I will be understanding. Lose a shred of reputation for the firm and I will be ruthless.
At age 11, Warren Buffett has $120 to his name. At age 14, when he filed his first tax return, his net worth was $1,000. He became a millionaire at age 30 and a billionaire at age 55. In 2022, he is worth more than $92 billion. From age 30 till now, his wealth compounded at an astounding rate of more than 20% annually. A simple way to gauge Warren Buffett's wealth is to take his ownership of Berkshire Hathaway and multiply that with the company's market capitalization. For a more detailed analysis, one would need to examine Berkshire's portfolio of public and private companies. As for public companies, the top 10 companies account for almost 88% of all Berkshire holdings, with the top 5 being Apple, Bank of America, Chevron, Coca-Cola, and American Express. The list of private companies numbering more than 60 is equally impressive, and that includes Berkshire Hathaway Energy, BNSF Railway, Borsheims, Clayton Homes, Dairy Queen, Geico, Nebraska Furniture Mart, NetJets, Pampered Chef, and See's Candy, just to name a few.
I would say that the most important thing over a long period and working with big money is to understand the business. You're going to be looking for businesses that have enduring competitive advantage. Now that takes a business with some kind of a motor on it, and you want it run by honest and able people, and then you want to price this nicely.
Einstein is reputed to have said that compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world or something like that, and it goes back to that story you probably learned when you were in grade school where somebody did something for the king and the king said, "What can I do for you?" And he said, "Well, let's take a chessboard and put one kernel of wheat on the first square and then double it on the second and double it on the third." And the king readily agreed to it, and by the time he figured out what 2 to the 64th amounted to. He was giving away the entire kingdom. So it's a pretty simple concept, but over time, it accomplishes extraordinary things.
So, who is Warren Buffett? A family man, a special friend, a philanthropist, a great investor and teacher, and most of all, he is the Oracle of Omaha.